The iPhone 14 Pro is the iPhone that a great many people should this year, not on the grounds that it appears to be altogether unique to its ancestor. As a matter of fact, by all accounts, the two look close indistinguishable. But since of the pile of updates on offer from Apple's Pro iPhone territory this year, further isolating them from the norm, less expensive iPhone 14 and iPhone 14 Plus, with title highlights including Apple's novel unique island, new consistently in plain view usefulness, the primary 48MP camera in an iPhone, and Apple's top-end A16 Bionic chipset. Apple has its sights set serenely on the top-of-the-line Android contest. The inquiry is, with a critical cost climb, does Apple's best-in-class actually offer great incentive for cash, design, and construct? At the point when you first gander at the iPhone 14 Pro, it's difficult to detect the distinctions among it and last year's iPhone 13 Pro until you turn the presentation on, that is. Generally, the iPhone 14 Pro is close indistinguishable from its ancestor, yet that is no terrible thing. Apple's modern, precise design language and mix of a tempered steel casing and glass front and back looks and feels premium, with new space dark and profound purple wraps up joining the silver and gold of last year's reach, while the brushed glass back seems to be comparable. Wearing a similar 3-camera cutout, the actual cameras are a smidge thicker than on the 13 Pro, however that is nothing unexpected with such an updated camera offering. It's a comparable story with the general form. As a matter of fact, the iPhone 14 Pro is marginally taller and fatter this time around at 71.5 x 147.5 x 7.85 millimeters and 206 grams separately. However, it's hard to take note. The side button, volume controls, and quietness switch are all in similar spots, just like the microphone ports, speaker grills, and the lightning port. Indeed, one more year passes without Macintosh taking the leap toward USB-C, as it has with the iPad Air and iPad Pro. However, bits of hearsay recommend that could at long last change 1 year from now. It's likewise still as residue and water safe as anyone might think possible, flaunting IP68 protection that ought to protect it from a dunk in the water. The main eminent change in the iPhone 14 Pro's design is the SIM plate, or absence of it. While it's actually present on models sold in the UK, Europe, and most districts, Apple has chosen to bet everything on eSIM innovation in the US, where there's no SIM plate on models sold there. It absolutely adds to Apple's spotless tasteful, yet it'll be fascinating to perceive how US customers will respond to the change. They'll need to move their phone number to eSIM upon setup. Display and sound. The iPhone 14 Pro games Apple's 6.1 and Super Retina XDR show that, while not perceptibly higher goal than its ancestor at 2556 x 1179, offers one tremendous redesign. As a matter of fact, it's the greatest change in Apple iconography since the iPhone X. Everything boils down to one major expansion, the dynamic island. The elongated formed cutout totally replaces the famous Face ID score, drifting millimeters from the highest point of the showcase. In tremendous Apple design, it accomplishes something no other smartphone camera cutout available does at this moment. It changes shape. The powerful island cutout changes shape as well as adds usefulness, relying upon what's going on screen, apparently growing and contracting freely. Obviously, this is only a stunt, contained both equipment and software, as the actual cutout itself isn't changing. Yet all the same, it's consistent and somewhat otherworldly. Look somewhat nearer and you'll see that the cutout is really involved in elliptical removed, a roundabout cutout, and afterward dark dynamic presentation pixels between them, giving the deception of a solitary cutout. The Face ID tech concealed inside has contracted, and Apple figured out how to put the profundity sensor behind the showcase to smaller it further. The final product is a camera removed that will powerfully change shape and capability, relying upon what you're doing and what application you're in, showing a Face ID symbol while checking your face, progressing clocks, battery markers for AirPods, music controls, and the sky is the limit from there. You can likewise tap and hold the slice out to get to extra controls, permitting you to skirt a tune, answer a call, or drop a clock without leaving the application you're in. Tapping it once takes you to the application being referred to. The presentation is likewise unbelievably brilliant, with Apple bragging a standard Splendor 1000 nits. However, that leaps up to a noteworthy 1600 nits while watching Dolby Vision HDR content. And, when you're in direct daylight, the showcase can lift to an eye-softening 2000 nits. I never battled to see the iPhone's showcase in any lighting conditions, and I question any other person will, all things considered. With regards to sound, anticipate similar sound system speaker arrangement as past models, complete with help for Dolby Atmos spatial sound that gives shows like more interesting things added profundity. However, you're actually in an ideal situation utilizing a couple of headphones where you can. Highlights and execution. Dissimilar to the iPhone 14 Plus actually shaking last year's A15 Bionic The iPhone 14 Pro and its Pro Max can sport Apple's best-in-class A16 Bionic. The 4nm chipset, down from 5nm of the A15 Bionic, offers a 10% lift to by and large execution as well as improved proficiency as well, with Apple guaranteeing both that it's 20% more proficient and that its effectiveness centers utilize 33% the force of the anonymous Android contests. As you would expect, that means blisteringly quick regular use with not a smidgen of slack or falter to be seen in any event. While playing AAA games like Genshin Contact with high graphical settings and looking at a media-weighty Twitter channel, it's not simply regular use either. The A16 Bionic permits you to alter Apple ProRes recordings on the fly inside the Photographs application, permitting you to edit, add channels, and trim the video with a commodity season of only seconds. That is to a great extent reflected in our benchmark results that see the iPhone 14 Pro beat the iPhone 13 Pro as well as the Android contest as well, particularly in the computer chip office where Mac's benefits over Qualcomm and MediaTek are generally clear. However, some Android contenders get higher edge rates in GFX bench tests. That is expected to the 60 FPS outline rate cap on the iOS application. Ideally, that will be refreshed soon, and we can rerun our tests for a more precise graphical correlation. That all said, the iPhone 14 Pro doesn't feel uniquely quicker than any semblance of the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra in ordinary use. As far as capacity choices, you have 4 to look over, going from 128GB as far as possible up to 1TB. However, with such great combination with iCloud, it's difficult to prescribe the top-end model to anybody that doesn't shoot in ProRes and Pro. With regards to availability, there's 5G, Wi-Fi 6 with 2x2 MIMO support, Bluetooth 5.3 and NFC for installments with Apple Pay. It likewise sports Apple's proprietary U1 Ultra wideband chip to assist you with finding AirTags with accuracy finding, cameras, and photography. However, the back-confronting camera arrangement may not appear to be that unique initially. Every one of the 3 of the iPhone 14 Pro's back cameras have had redesigns. The title is without a doubt the principal camera, which has a 48MP sensor without precedent for the iPhone's set of experiences. Like Android phones with high-res sensors, Apple involves a 4-in-1 pixel binning strategy that joins 4 pixels into one bigger pixel to improve low-light execution and detail in a last 12MP picture. As you would expect, these pictures genuinely succeed, with extraordinary variety, exactness, lightning-quick concentration, and great detail, to such an extent that I could see individual hairs on a photograph of my feline Alan. You've additionally got the decision of shooting a full-goal 48MP crude uncompressed picture with additional information, permitting you to change lighting, differentiation, and lift shadows in software like Lightroom or the Photographs application. This is convenient, notwithstanding improvements with Apple's new photonic motor picture processing tech. The iPhone actually will in general crunch shadows down excessively much in naturally processed pictures, software, and updates. The iPhone 14 Pro runs iOS 16. However, so does basically every iPhone from the iPhone 8 onwards. Software backing and lifespan are critical to Apple's prosperity, and keeping in mind that the Android rivalry is finding long-term operating system redesign promises, nobody comes near Apple's controlled update framework. All upheld iPhones get the large redesigns around the same time, not months separated like with Android deliveries, and phones will get updates any more than the Android contest. iOS 16 presents a modest bunch of cool new elements to the iPhone experience. The greatest and most quickly perceptible is the customizable lock screen, which permits you to utilize intelligent backdrops and gadgets, tweak the format, and change the Times text style, combined with another notice framework that gets notices from the lower part of the screen. It seems like a tremendous revive for iOS. Battery duration. While most producers proudly promote the battery limit of smartphones as one of their principal includes, the equivalent can't be said for Apple. The organization never openly reveals the battery limit in milliampere hours, rather giving ambiguous battery duration promises connected to video playback. Keeping that in mind, Apple guarantees the iPhone 14 Pro can marshal 23 hours of video playback on a solitary charge, up from 22 hours on the 13 Pro. The single-hour increment proposes the battery isn't any greater than last year, and the additional effectiveness comes rather from the 4nm A16 Bionic chipset and the new versatile Showcase tech.